Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Donnie here, and I am back with my second installment in my classic movie series. If you saw my first video in the series, I talked about the classic film Jaws, and for this one, I have another film that's very relevant for the season we're in. It's a summer movie. Right now, recently we had high school graduates you know, who are setting stage on the next phase of their life, whether they're going away to college or staying home and going to college or going to a trade or technical school or getting a job or joining the military. There's a lot of different options for them, and a lot of times they're in the midst of a big decision-making process, and this film kind of deals with that and as and what they are doing in their next phase of their life. It's a film from 1973. It's called American Graffiti. It was directed by George Lucas, who unfortunately never went on to direct any other films of note. This was kind of his peak, and you know, no other film he ever did ever resonated with audiences. And it starred an unknown cast who kind of fell off the face of the earth after this film. Guys like Harrison Ford, Ron Howard, Richard Dreyfuss. You never heard from them again after this film. But I kid. Uh, this is this film is considered one of the greatest coming of age films of all time. Um, it it has a big nostalgia factor. It takes place in 1962 and follows a group of recent high school graduates on just one night in the summer before they set off on their different paths of life. And the fact that it takes place all in one night, that's what really appealed to me. I kind of like films and just stories that take place over a short period of time. I think it's an incredible craftsmanship how you can take like just one brief period and make something compelling and interesting. That's always what appealed to me about this film. Uh, it's an ensemble cast with all the different storylines, like kind of interwoven with each other, and it's very well made and well put together, well written, and I just really enjoy this film. And I'll give you like a brief overview of it. There's kind of four main plot points to it. First, I'll delve into is the character of Kurt Henderson, who's played by Richard Dreyfuss, and he plays this guy who's preparing to go off to college. He's from California, that's where the film takes place, but he's planning to go to college back east, you know, and he has some definite reservations about this. He is very unsure of whether he wants to do this or not. He's kind of is afraid he might be homesick, and throughout the film, he kind of is grappling with this decision, and you think, yeah, he's not gonna go back. He's not gonna go. So it's a so it's interesting character study for him. Uh, th- and early on in the film, he sees a woman, beautiful blonde woman, driving a Thunderbird, and this woman, who's simply referred to as the blonde in the T-Bird. She's played by Suzanne Summers, who later went on to find fame on Three's Company and Step by Step. And he kind of follows her, and tries to find her and connect with her. The One of the other main storylines involves the character of Steve Bolander, played by Ron Howard, who is Kurt's good friend, and he is dating Kurt's younger sister, Lori, played by Cindy Williams, who you may know as Shirley from Laverne and Shirley. And because she's younger and still in high school, they kind of have this thing where he's going away to college. He's also going to college back east, and and she's not, and they're not sure what that's going to mean for their relationship. And he proposes possibly seeing other people, and she's not too keen on this idea. and they have several arguments throughout the night, and you wonder what's going to come of their relationship. There's another storyline involves Terry, who they nicknamed the Toad. He's a guy who's kind of a sheepish, wimpish guy. He's played by actor Charles Martin Smith, and he gets he he gets given a car from Steve, who's not going to need his car when he's off at college, and he wants him to watch it until he comes back in December for Christmas. And so he spends the night driving around with this car, and and cars are a big part of this film. They also, spend the whole film driving around and hot rodding and all that. And if you're a fan of classic cars, will definitely like that aspect of this film. There's some beautiful classic cars in it. But that's just one good point for this film. So he drives around and he meets a young girl named Debbie. She's played by Candy Clark, an actress, and he, with his newfound confidence, he kind of picks her up and they drive around and have a nice night together. And the car winds up getting stolen, and he tries, and they had a quest to get it back. And it's interesting watching him with his newfound confidence while still letting parts slip where his sheepishness kind of seeps through, and his neck. Like there's one instance where he's trying to get beer, or like liquor, from the liquor store, and he attempts to ask an older gentleman to buy him some, but at the last second he chickens out and just asks them what time is it, and so that's kind of like accurately describes his characters, right? And he has they have some nice funny moments together, him and Debbie. The last main storyline involves a character of John Milner. He's played by actor Paul Lamette, and he drives, and he's kind of this tough guy, greaser type, a very Fonzie-esque type character. And he's driving around, and he sees a car full of girls, and he tries flirting with them and ask if any of them want to come hop in his car with him, and they say no, except for one in the back says that she's gonna come, and he thinks, oh, he's gonna make out now. But who pops in is the one of the girl's little sister. Her character is Carol. She's like 12, 13 years old. She's played by Mackenzie Phillips, who later went on to star in the sitcom One Day at a Time. And she, and you may think, okay, this sounds kind of creepy, this storyline, but it's actually very well done, and there's really no creepiness to it. It's just, he acts as kind of a mentor, an older brother type to her, and she helps to kind of soften his character. So it's very well done. It's one of the most well written movies I've ever seen. And what I find interesting, like, it's such a nostalgic film, like with the classic cars and that, the music, you hear a lot of music of the 50s and early 60s, like a lot of Buddy Holly and that type of music. In fact, John Milner actually has a line where he says that music's been going downhill ever since Buddy Holly died. And so it has a lot of that working for it, but it's just a great character study. And one interesting thing I found out about this film is how, like, nostalgic it is, but it takes place in 1962. But the movie was made in 1973. So that's only an 11-year difference. Like, can you imagine a movie coming out today that, that is nostalgic and looking back fondly on the year 2010? Like, it's not really that much time. Like, it's not, there's some differences, but it's not all that much different. Whereas with this, despite only being an 11-year difference, it was a vastly different worlds between the two. And I think it was kind of purposely done, and it was kind of purposely set. I think with George Lucas, they really um, pinpointed like the year 1962 because it was kind of like um, the last breath of innocence for a lot of them as the world started to change in the 1960s. If you saw my one video, Class TV Spotlight episode 4, where I talk about the rural purge and how how TV acted as escapism to the world of the 1960s. There's a lot that went on in the 60s. And, and you had, so many things happen, like the JFK assassination, his brother Bobby getting assassinated, Martin Luther King, the Vietnam War, and all the, riots and all these civil unrest and all these different things that happened, that you saw the world vastly change in this, just in that brief time period where, yeah, you can go back 11 years and it was a different time. And the movie was set just a couple months before when the Cuban Missile Crisis would have happened, a year before JFK was assassinated, like shortly before America got into Vietnam. So it was just like right like that. You're looking at like you know, a completely different society. So what that's what I found very interesting. So I'm gonna discuss. There is like a little bit of spoilers right now. So if you want to stop the video now, if you've never seen this movie and don't want the ending spoiled, in the end, Kurt Henderson does wind up going away to college. But the funny thing is that his character, Steve Bolander, who was much more, who didn't really show any signs of wanting to stay, winds up staying. Um, in the final scene, John Milner and Bob Falfa, another tough guy played by an unknown actor by the name of Harrison Ford, uh, they challenge. They are engrossed in a drag race that Milner wins, and Falfa winds up crashing his car with Lori, Steve's girlfriend, in it after she went with him after a fight. And they, both make it out unscathed, but she's upset. And Steve comes to comfort her and tells her he's not gonna leave. And so, and in the last scene, Kurt, who does wind up talking to the blonde and the T-Bird on the phone, but says that he can't meet her. He's going away to college the next day, and he takes off in a plane. And Steve tells him that he might join him next year, but you have your doubts. Um, so just so it's very interesting how they flipped how flipped that, and it's kind of unexpected. Um, in the end, you see it flashes up on the screen what happens to the characters. It says that John was killed in a car accident of about 2 years after this film. Terry, in '65, was in Vietnam and was declared missing in action. Uh, Steve still lives in California and works as an insurance agent, and Kurt is a writer in Canada. So I find it so it's pretty interesting, particularly between Steve and Kurt, that Steve, they kind of gave this, the very comfortable, stable job as an insurance agent. Not to take anything away from anyone who has that job, but it's, kind of like just the ultimate comfort, you know, comfort, provide for your family, well-meaning job, you know. Whereas Kurt has the more quote unquote creative job, however you may say. And, so it's different, the dichotomy between those two things. And one interesting thing to note, I think, the fact that it says he's living in Canada, kind of implies the fact that he probably escaped to Canada to avoid the Vietnam draft. So that's just another little interesting tidbit. So all in all, I think it's a really fine film. It wound up earning 5 Oscar nominations for Best Picture, George Lucas for Best Director, Candy Clark as Debbie was nominated for Best Supporting Actress, as well as its screenplay and editing were also nominated. So, and it's one of, an all-time great film. It's funny, it's sweet, it has great dramatic moments, and I just highly recommend it. It wound up inspiring the TV show Happy Days, which is another one of my favorite shows, which may be a future episode at some point. And yeah, and we look at how big nostalgia is, and people love looking back fondly on their time, and and there's nothing wrong with that as long as you don't lose sight of the present and the future. So I highly recommend this film, and and always leave a comment, tell me about this film or any suggestions for future videos you'd like me to do, and like, subscribe, the works. Thank you for watching, and until next time, take it easy.